Beneath the
prepare
endless
for their
blue
arrival.
waters of Earth, the
Agreed.
world
The
is
fleet is
quiet
ready
and
on your
calm on the
command.
surface. Yet far below, a different world waits in the darkness, a place that no one from the surface has ever seen for hundreds of years. The deep ocean has hidden a gate bigger than any city tower, made of dark steel and ancient markings. The pressure down here is enough to crush any normal ship. Yet this gate stands strong like a silent guardian, keeping its secret from the world above. Today something changes. The heavy steel doors begin to move, grinding slowly against the rock around them. Massive clouds of sand and debris rise into the dark water. Strange blue lights flicker along the edges of the gate, casting an eerie glow across the seafloor. The kind of glow that makes the water look alive. On the other side of this gate is a sight that no surface human could imagine: a city the size of a continent built inside a giant air pocket. Deep beneath the ocean roof, the city is alive with activity. Millions of sleek black ships are lined in perfect rows, their hulls shining with strange markings. Some are small and fast like hunting sharks, others are massive like floating mountains, each one built for war. The sound of distant engines hums through the water, a deep, steady beat that feels more alive than any heartbeat. The lights from the city pulse in patterns, as if speaking to each other in a language only machines understand. On the edge of the city, a single small vessel moves towards the gate. This vessel does not belong here. Inside is Captain Elias Vorn, a deep-sea explorer known for his strange habit of searching places where no one dares to go. His small submersible hums softly as he moves closer to the strange lights. He had followed a trail of unusual magnetic signals from the surface down into the trench, but he never expected to find this: a hidden civilization, a million ships ready for something. Elias stares through the thick glass window of his sub, his heart racing faster than it ever has before. The sight feels unreal, too perfect to be natural. His hand shakes slightly as he adjusts the controls, trying to keep the sub steady in the heavy currents. Every instinct tells him to turn back and leave, yet something pulls him closer, like a silent voice telling him he is meant to see this. As he gets nearer to the city, his onboard computer begins to glitch. Strange symbols flash on the screen as navigation fails for a moment, and the sub's lights flicker on and off. Suddenly, the gate behind him slams shut with a deep echo that travels through the water like the roar of an ancient beast. Elias realizes he is now trapped. Inside, the city movement changes as if his presence has been noticed. Massive shadows begin to shift among the ships. Some vessels detach from their docks, moving slowly toward him, their lights glowing brighter. With each passing second, the water around him feels heavier, as if something is pressing against his mind. Then he hears it, not with his ears, but inside his head, a cold, deep voice that does not belong to any human. "You have seen what no surface human should see," the voice says, its tone sharp like a blade in the dark. "You have crossed into the realm of the deep Armada, and there is no going back." Elias tries to speak, but no sound comes out. His throat is dry, and his thoughts are spinning. His sub rocks slightly as one of the massive ships passes by, its hull stretching longer than a skyscraper is tall, its engines glowing with a light that seems to pull the darkness away for a moment, then fade again. Around him, the city continues to move alive in a way that feels both beautiful and dangerous. The million ships wait silent, yet ready like sleeping giants dreaming of battle. Strange towers rise from the seafloor, covered in glowing lines that shift and change like flowing water. Elias notices that the patterns almost look like maps of the stars. The voice speaks again, this time softer, but still carrying the weight of command. "The surface will soon face the sky's wrath. The deep will rise to meet it. You will see the storm from within." Before Elias can ask what this means, an alarm begins to sound across the city. The lights flash red, and the giant warships start to power up, engines roaring like thunder. Under the sea, somewhere far above in the cold dark of space, something must be coming, and whatever it is, the deep Armada has been waiting for it for a very long time. The currents grow stronger as the first ships move into formation, their sleek bodies cutting through the water with a speed no surface submarine could match. Energy shields shimmer around them like waves frozen in place. The city feels less like a secret now and more like a predator preparing to strike. Elias grips the controls tighter, knowing he has stepped into a story far larger than himself, a story that may decide the fate of the world above and the depths below. Far above the calm blue seas where sunlight dances on the surface, a very different scene unfolds in the black silence of space. A signal bursts across the void, carrying a soundless warning that no human ear could hear, but every machine could feel. Deep space sensors stationed in lonely orbits beyond the moon pick it up, first faint at the edges like a whisper, but growing stronger with every second. It is not a natural signal, not a drifting echo of some dead star. Instead, it is sharp, measured, and filled with patterns that speak of intelligence and intent. The network of satellites around Earth sends the data racing down to command centers across the globe in minutes, and the results chill every heart that sees them. A fleet is coming, not one or two ships, but hundreds, maybe thousands, moving in perfect formation across the darkness, like a swarm of silver blades, each one larger than the tallest skyscraper. Their shapes are sleek and curved, with dark energy halos spinning slowly around them. The readings say they are moving at speeds no human craft can match, crossing the distance between stars, as if the void were an open plain under their feet. The name appears in the files almost instantly, pulled from fragments of intercepted alien broadcasts over the last decade. The Zerath Dominion, a war empire older than humanity's recorded history of force that has conquered entire worlds without mercy, worlds whose names are now gone from memory, erased, as if they never existed. Their fleets strike fast, and their terms are simple: surrender and serve, or burn in the fires of destruction. There are no second offers and no survivors of refusal. In the United Nations Emergency Hall, the screens show the incoming Armada, while leaders and generals argue over maps and numbers, the tension thick enough to choke on. Some demand immediate military action, others argue for surrender, fearing the complete destruction of cities. Yet deep down, every person in the room knows that Earth's weapons, no matter how advanced for surface wars, are decades behind the technology now moving towards them. As the noise of voices rises, a new sound cuts through every broadcast, every communication network across the planet. An encrypted signal slips into every channel, breaking into news feeds, personal calls, and military lines. It is not a voice any human recognizes, yet it speaks in perfect human language, deep, calm, and commanding. The deep Armada will rise. Do not resist. The message repeats twice, then vanishes, leaving confusion and fear in its wake. Within seconds, the networks are flooded with questions from governments and civilians alike. What is the Deep Armada? Is it an alien faction? Is it a warning or a threat? Military analysts search every archive, every classified file, but find nothing under that name. It is as if it has never existed in any human record. Far below the oceans, however, the words carry weight for those who live in the great cities beneath the waves. The signal is not a warning, but a command long awaited. In the Abyssal Confederation's Council Hall, leaders gather around a glowing map of the seas, each marked with symbols for their hidden fleets. Millions of warships held in silence for centuries, now preparing to awaken. The fleets have been asleep so long that even some younger generations in the deep believe they are myth stories told to inspire discipline and pride. But now the lights along the docks are coming alive, engines are humming again, long corridors that have been dark for hundreds of years shine with the soft blue glow of power returning from the ocean floor. Towers of steel and crystal rise into the dark water, their surfaces rippling with living energy patterns. Captain Elias Vorn, still inside his small submersible, watches from a vantage point above one of the largest shipyards. The sight is overwhelming. Rows upon rows of massive ships lifting slowly from their docks, each one bristling with weapons he cannot name, their hulls smooth and unbroken, except for glowing lines that seem to flow like rivers of light down their sides. As he stares, the cold voice from before returns in his mind. We have hidden while the surface forgot us. We have built in silence while they built in the sun. The day has come for the deep to defend the sky. You surface-born will bear witness. Before he can answer, the water around him shakes, as if struck by a giant invisible hand. A deep vibration rolls through the trenches. The largest gates of the city swing open, revealing a tunnel that vanishes into complete darkness, and from it emerges something even larger than the ships. Elias has already seen a command vessel shaped like a blade, wider than a mountain range and long enough to vanish into the gloom. Behind it, its prow glows with a shifting golden light. In orbit, Earth's telescopes finally catch sight of the alien fleet, As it moves into the solar system, the ships are arranged in three massive wings, their surfaces reflecting the sunlight. In sharp flashes, the Zerath mothership sits in the center, towering over the others like a dark moon, its hull covered in patterns that shift and move like living shadows. The first message from the Zerath arrives as they cross the orbit of Mars, transmitted in a voice that echoes like rolling thunder. "We come for your world, surrender, or be erased. There is no third choice, no hiding, no escape." The ultimatum spreads across the surface. Nations respond with rushed speeches and broadcasts promising resistance. But in private rooms, generals know the truth: their fleets would last minutes against such power. Already plans are being made to hide leaders underground to preserve some fragment of humanity if defeat comes quickly. But in the deep, the Abyssal Confederation makes no speeches. Instead, orders are given in silence. Ships align in formation. Energy cores are charged to full strength. Shield generators warm. With a soft hum, the city's great walls shift to reveal launch channels leading to the open sea. The alien fleet will never expect what waits below the surface. Their scans will show only the oceans and perhaps the faint heat of submarine activity, but they will not see the truth until the water itself erupts with fire and steel. Elias drifts closer to the command vessel, pulled by a mixture of fear and awe. He sees crews moving inside through great transparent walls, tall humans in deep-sea armor, their eyes glowing faintly under the strange lights. They work without pause, hands moving over controls that respond instantly to their touch. The scale of their technology makes everything on the surface seem primitive. The cold voice returns, this time with a tone like a blade sliding from its sheath. "You will see the first strike from the heart of the ocean. Surface ships will fall, the skies will burn, but the deep will hold the line, as it always has. Your kind will finally know who protects this world." Above in space, the Zerath fleet breaks formation. Smaller attack groups moving ahead like wolves testing the herd. Their scans sweep the planet, focusing on military bases and orbital stations. Weapons begin to charge with a light that can be seen from the ground as a faint red star, growing in size and heat. The surface prepares for impact. Bunkers are sealed, missiles are armed. The streets of cities fall silent under the shadow of fear, and somewhere in those shadows, whispers spread about the mysterious deep Armada. Some believe it is just another alien force. Others think it is an ancient human defense forgotten by history. But soon all will know as the oceans begin to stir. The world above still struggles to understand what it has just seen. Millions watch from coasts, rooftops, and screens as colossal warships rise from the ocean's wings of metal, cutting through the air. Engines glowing with a strange deep blue fire. Some hover in place, casting vast shadows over the waters. Others climb higher, breaking through the clouds in tight formation. The sight is so unreal that many believe it is a trick of light or a secret project suddenly revealed. But for the Abyssal Confederation, this is not new. It is simply the moment they have waited for since their first stone was laid beneath the waves. Far below the surface, Captain Elias Vorn is escorted through a long curving corridor. Inside the largest command vessel, the walls shimmer with streams of light flowing like liquid data, carrying information faster than any surface human technology can dream of. Tall armored guards walk beside him, their armor dark and smooth like the skin of a deep-sea predator, their helmets shaped to fit perfectly over their heads with glowing blue visors that seem to study him with every step he takes. Each step echoes softly in the pressurized hall, reminding him how far from home he is and how deep in this hidden world he has come. They lead him into a vast chamber, shaped like the inside of a dome, with a view of the ocean beyond through a transparent wall. The sight takes his breath away. Hundreds of ships still wait in their docks, while others ascend into the distance, their silhouettes fading into the glow of distant lights. In the center of the chamber stands a figure dressed in a long dark robe, covered in silver patterns shaped like waves and constellations. Her eyes glow faintly, the same blue as the engines outside, and her voice is calm, but carries a weight that makes the air feel heavier. "I am High Admiral Serena Kor of the Abyssal Confederation," she says, her voice filling the chamber. "Without echo, you have seen our gates, you have seen our ships. And now you must hear the truth. We are not your enemy surface-born. We are your shield, though you did not know we existed. We have been watching since before your surface nations learned to sail their first wooden ships. Elias tries to speak, but she raises a hand, and the words catch in his throat. Her gaze is sharp, but not cruel. She continues, long ago, when your surface ancestors were at war with one another, and the sky was filled with the smoke of burning cities, a choice was made. A branch of humanity would leave the land and the sky and descend into the deep here, free from the politics, greed, and endless wars of the surface. We could build without limits. We could prepare for the day when a greater enemy would come from beyond the stars. She gestures to the ships beyond the glass. Each one is a fortress, faster than the winds, stronger than the mountains. They were built for one purpose: to face the day when the sky would open and something would come through to take this world from us. Elias feels a cold shiver as he realizes this is no sudden reaction to the Zayrath arrival. This is a plan centuries in the making. The Abyssals have known, or at least believed, that such a threat would come. They have poured generations of knowledge and resources into this hidden armada, while the surface lived unaware. Serena walks toward a large table in the center of the room. It lights up with a map of the solar system. Tiny red marks show the positions of the Zayrath fleet. Slowly moving toward Earth, blue marks show the abyssal ships, spreading out from the oceans to form a shield around the planet. She points to the gaps between the blue lines. Here is where they will strike first. They will send smaller groups to draw out our ships, to test our weapons. Then the main force will descend all at once. They will not care for your cities or your people. They will burn the surface until nothing remains that is their way. Elias asks quietly, why help us now when we did not even know you existed? Her eyes narrow slightly, and for a moment her expression hardens. Because the surface is still ours, she answers. Because you are still human, and this world still belongs to our kind. And because if the Zayrath take it, they will not stop here. They will move to the deep as well, and there will be nothing left for either of us. Around the chamber, officers work at their stations, speaking in quick, low tones to one another. Screens and holograms update, constantly showing ship positions, weapon status, and strange energy readings that Elias does not recognize. One officer announces that the first wave of abyssal ships has reached high atmosphere and is taking position alongside the surface defense satellites. Another reports that deep shield arrays along the ocean floor are fully charged, ready to intercept orbital strikes. Serena steps closer to Elias, her voice dropping lower. There is one more truth. You must know not all of the Abyssal Confederation agrees with this course. There are those who believe the surface deserves its fate. For centuries, you have poisoned the oceans, hunted the great life of the deep, and ignored the signs of your own ruin. They argue that we should stay hidden, let the Zayrath cleanse the surface, and when they are gone, we would rise to claim what remains. You must understand, Captain Vornat. In our council, this decision to act was not made without fierce opposition. Elias feels the weight of her words pressing on him, heavier than the water above them. So there are factions even here in this hidden empire, and if the tide of battle turns badly, those who opposed helping the surface may still try to abandon them. Serena straightens and turns her gaze back to the massive window. Outside, a great shadow passes overhead as a ship larger than anything Elias has yet seen drifts upward, its sides lined with weapon ports glowing faintly. This is the Hammer of the Deep, she says, our oldest and most powerful warship. It has never been used in combat. Its core is powered by the heart of a fallen star we found drifting at the edge of the system. It will lead the charge against the Zayrath flagship. From somewhere far above, a deep vibration runs through the walls and floor of the chamber. A sign that the Zayrath have begun their first attack. Waves of red light streak down from orbit, striking the upper atmosphere, where they explode against the energy shields cast by the abyssal ships. The light flashes through the water outside like distant lightning. Elias can almost feel the heat even here. Serena turns to him one last time before walking toward the command dais. You will remain here and watch, Captain. You will see the truth of who protects your world, and you will carry that truth back to your people if you live through what comes next. Outside the great city, the final ships rise from their docks, the deep water churning like a storm. The gates to the abyss swing wide, and the last lines of the abyssal armada surge upward. Engines, flaring weapons arm the water parts above them as they ascend toward the battle that will decide not only the fate of the surface, but of the deep itself. The black canvas of space stretches endless above Earth, and in that cold void, two forces now face each other, one born in the crushing depths of the oceans, the other forged in the far reaches of alien stars. The Zerath Dominion has arrived in full force, their fleets spread across the horizon like a wall of steel and shadow. Each ship glows with a dark red energy that pulses along its hull like veins of fire, their weapons turned toward the planet hungry for destruction. Far below, the first wave of abyssal ships rises from the ocean's water, roaring away in colossal towers as engines flare brighter than the sun. Each warship climbs higher, passing through layers of clouds until the sky itself seems to split, with their ascent formations form in perfect precision, lines of blue light weaving through the upper atmosphere and locking into defensive patterns. The hammer of the deep takes position at the center, its prow aimed directly at the Zerath flagship like a spear, ready to pierce the heart of the invader. On the coasts, millions watch in silence as the battle begins. Flashes appear in the upper sky like strange new stars, blooming and dying in an instant. Streaks of light cut across the darkness as the first exchange of fire begins. The Zerath send a storm of plasma bolts toward Earth, their speed so great they seem to blink in and out of existence before striking, but the abyssal shields flare alive, absorbing the blasts in ripples of blue energy that shimmer like the surface of a disturbed sea. Captain Elias stands on the command deck of the Hammer of the Deep, staring at the battle through the vast panoramic view. Ahead, the void is filled with moving shapes, each warship like a predator weaving through currents only they can see. The deep voice of High Admiral Serenia Kor echoes across the deck. Give them no opening, hold the shield wall, push them back to the dark where they belong. Her words are steady yet charged with the kind of calm that comes only from centuries of preparation. The abyssal fleet surges forward, their weapons roaring with bursts of condensed energy beams so bright they cut through the dark like sunrise over endless water. One by one, Zerath cruisers are struck, their hulls breaking apart into fragments that drift away, glowing faintly before fading into the black. The enemy responds with their own precision, strikes their red beams, slicing through the shields of smaller abyssal craft, sending them spinning into the void like wounded sea creatures falling back into the depths. From the center of the Zerath formation, a massive weapon begins to power up, rings of molten light circling its core, the energy readings spike far beyond anything seen before. The Hammer of the Deep shifts slightly, its engines burning hotter. Serenia's voice cuts through the tense air brace for impact. The enemy intends to break the shield wall in one strike. The blast comes like the birth of a second sun, a spear of red energy tearing through the black toward the heart of the abyssal formation. Ships turn to intercept, pouring power into their shields. The impact shudders through the entire fleet as if the ocean itself has slammed against them. The Hammer of the Deep holds position, its own shields glowing white from the strain, yet the wall does not break, and when the light fades, the abyssals still stand. Counterstrikes, Serenia commands, and the deck comes alive with movement. The Hammer's main cannon, a weapon built from the core of a fallen star, ignites. In a golden blaze, energy floods through the ship's structure until it hums like a living thing. The beam fires with a soundless fury, slicing through space and striking the Zerath flagship. Its shields flare and hold, but the blow pushes it back slightly, a sign that the invader can bleed. All across the battlefield, the two sides clash. Abyssal strike wings slip between enemy formations, targeting engines and weapon ports with surgical precision, while heavier vessels anchor the shield wall against the relentless storm of fire. The void is littered with drifting wreckage, pieces of ships turning slowly in the absence of gravity. Some abyssal craft retreat into the atmosphere to repair, only to surge upward again moments later, rejoining the fight. On the coast below, people see only the brief flashes of light above, but in every city the ground shakes faintly as the energy from the battle echoes through the atmosphere. Alarms wail in military bases as debris begins to fall from the sky, burning in streaks of fire over the oceans. The great gates to the deep remain open, launching new waves of warships to replace those lost. Elias grips the rail in front of him as another Zerath cruiser bursts into flames under concentrated fire from three abyssal destroyers. His heart pounds with both fear and awe. He has seen surface naval battles before, but nothing like this. This is war on a scale that defies belief, where every shot is powerful enough to level a city, and every movement decides the fate of thousands. The Zerath begin to shift tactics, pulling their larger ships back and sending smaller, faster craft in swarms toward the shield wall. Their goal is clear: overwhelm the defenders with speed and numbers before the heavy guns can track them. Abyssal interceptors break formation to meet them. The two swarms collide in a tangled storm of light, and motion beams arc through the darkness. Explosions bloom in quick succession, and debris scatters like shattered shells, sinking through water. From the rear of the abyssal fleet, a new formation rises. 20 ships moving in perfect synchronization, each carrying heavy torpedoes designed to punch through even the strongest shields. They sweep around the flank of the Zerath formation, catching several cruisers off guard and tearing through their hulls in bursts of white light. The gap they create is small, but it forces the enemy to divert ships to cover it, slowing their advance. Serena's voice comes again over the comm channels. Press the gap, drive them apart. The deep must hold here. And now her words carry the weight of centuries. The crews respond without hesitation. Engines flare, weapons sing. The hammer of the deep surges forward like the point of a spear, its escorts fanning out on either side. Together, they push into the widening breach, their fire tearing through enemy lines in a relentless rhythm. For the first time in the battle, the Zerath formation shows signs of breaking. Their wings pull back slightly, their fire less coordinated than before, yet no one on the abyssal side believes victory is close. This is only the first wave, and all know that greater forces wait in the darkness beyond the system. As the first clash begins to slow, the void between the two fleets is littered with wreckage glowing faintly against the black. The hammer of the deep holds position at the forefront, its shields slowly dimming as they recover from the strain. Elias stares at the enemy lines, thinking of what Serena had told him about those in the deep who wanted to let the surface burn. He wonders how long unity can last in a war like this, and whether the next clash will find them stronger or weaker. The silence between battles is brief. Sensors flash with new readings, larger energy signatures approaching from the dark beyond the planet's orbit. The Zerath reinforcements have arrived, and the second wave is about to begin. The deep has held for now, but the true test is only just beginning. The silence beneath the great ocean was no longer peaceful. It was heavy, like the sea itself was holding its breath. The million ships hidden in the deep had not yet moved, but the air around them seemed charged with unseen power. Kalen stood at the edge of the central command deck, his eyes scanning the endless darkness shown on the glass-like screens. They had been waiting for the signal, the one that would awaken the fleet and send it toward the stars. But the signal had not yet come, and in that waiting there was a strange fear, one that no warrior wanted to name. Lyra moved closer to Kalen, her steps slow, her voice soft but urgent. She spoke of shadows moving outside the perimeter, shapes too small to be warships, too fast to be harmless creatures. Kalen listened without looking at her, his hands gripping the cold metal railing. The strange shapes had been seen 3 times in the last hour, and each time they vanished into the blackness of the deep before any scan could lock onto them. The crew whispered about scouts, about enemy eyes that had somehow found the great hidden Armada. Far above, the surface of the ocean trembled under a strange wind. The waves moved in unnatural patterns, spiraling inward toward a point that no one could see from below. It was as if the sea itself was being drawn toward some invisible drain. The older crew members, those who remembered the last great war, felt an old fear return, the fear of the unseen weapon, the kind that struck before anyone even knew it was there. Inside the Armada's command vessel, the low hum of the engines was constant, steady, but now it was joined by a faint vibration, a rhythm too even to be random. It came through the metal walls, through the floor beneath their boots, like the deep heartbeat of something vast moving in the dark. Lyra reached out to the nearest console, her fingers tapping a sequence that brought up old restricted files. Kalen glanced at her sharply, but said nothing. He knew what she was doing, and he knew they had little time. The file spoke of an ancient war before the stars were mapped, a war where whole planets vanished without a trace. The enemy had used something called a shadow tide, a living swarm that moved through space and water alike, feeding on energy, tearing apart ships without ever being seen clearly. It was a weapon from another age, one no one had expected to return, yet here they were, and the signs matched too well for comfort. Kalen's mind raced. If the shadow tide had found them, the Armada's hidden location would no longer matter. The million ships would be torn apart before they even rose from the ocean floor. He turned to Lyra, asking if the old files mentioned any weakness. She hesitated, her lips parting as if the words themselves tasted bitter. The weakness was not a weapon. It was a sound, a frequency so deep it shook the bones. A sound the shadow tide could not stand. But to use it, they would have to reveal their location to the entire galaxy. Because the sound could not be sent quietly, it would roar across space like a beacon. For a moment, the command deck was filled only with the low hum of the ship and the faint beat of that strange rhythm from the deep. The crew looked at Kalen, their eyes waiting for his choice. He could awaken the Armada now, launch them before the tide arrived in full. Or he could wait, hope the tide would pass without finding them, and risk losing everything in silence. Far in the blackness outside, one of the strange, small shapes appeared again, this time closer, its form shifting like smoke in water. One of the outer patrol drones caught a brief image before vanishing into static. The image was blurry, but enough to show a mass of twisting lines, like living cables reaching forward, seeking. Kalen's chest tightened. The shadow tide was not a rumor. It was here, and it was already hunting. The crew began moving faster, the comm replaced by a sharp, urgent energy. Messages were sent to the outermost ships, orders given to tighten defenses, but all knew that defenses alone would not hold if the tide came in full strength. Lyra's hand shook as she prepared the sequence for the deep sound, her eyes meeting Kalen's once, a silent question passing between them. He gave the smallest nod, and the command was set. The sound would be ready to send at his word. Outside, the darkness shifted again, and this time the vibration grew stronger, the rhythm faster. It was no longer the heartbeat of something distant. It was the approach of a swarm, thousands of living shadows moving as one. The Armada's lights flickered as if some great unseen hand brushed past, the ocean around them growing colder, heavier, as if the water itself feared what was coming. Kalen stepped forward, his voice steady though his blood raced. He gave the command to awaken the fleet. Across the ocean floor the ships began to stir, their hulls glowing faintly, engines breathing life after years of silence. The great metal city beneath the sea came alive, and the water churned as hundreds of thousands of ships prepared to rise. The shadow tide sensed it. The rhythm turned into a constant roar, the vibrations shaking the command deck so hard that tools and weapons fell from their mounts. Outside the glass-like screens the crew saw it at last, a black wall moving through the ocean, its edges writhing like snakes, its surface shimmering as if made of liquid night. It was beautiful in a way that made the heart ache, and terrifying in a way that made the breath catch. Kalen raised his hand toward Lyra, his voice carrying over the alarms. She pressed the final key, and the deep sound began, a low, bone-shaking hum that seemed to come from the very heart of the sea. It rolled through the water, pushing against the shadow tide, making its edges twist and break apart. The swarm slowed, hesitated, as if the sound struck something deep within its being. The crew did not cheer. They only watched, knowing the sound would also reach every ear in the galaxy. Their hiding place was gone, their presence known. The Armada was now exposed to friend and foe alike. The shadow tide recoiled, pulling back into the dark, but no one on the command deck relaxed, for they all knew what the next step must be. The ships would have to leave the ocean, and the war that had been waiting in the shadows would finally begin. The ocean above was no longer calm as deep currents churned and sent waves that broke against the jagged cliffs far away on the shore, while beneath, in the endless dark chamber, the million-ship Armada waited in perfect stillness like statues of steel and light. Commander Vera stood at the front of the largest vessel, the Dawn Spear, her eyes fixed on the glowing map that floated in the air before her, the lines of blue tracing enemy movement across distant sectors of the galaxy. The war above had reached a point where the surface world could no longer hold the line, yet the enemy still had no idea that under this sea, in the shadows of the planet's crust, there was a force that could turn the tide. Jalen, the young navigator, felt the tension in every heartbeat as his hands moved across the controls. Even though the ships had not yet moved, he felt like the Armada itself was holding its breath. The crew spoke in low voices, afraid to break the strange silence that filled the chamber. The walls of rock above them hummed faintly from the pressure of the ocean outside, a reminder of the weight they were hiding beneath. The message from the Council of Worlds was simple and chilling: hold position until the signal comes. Do not reveal your presence, no matter what happens on the surface. But each passing hour made that order harder to obey, because every intercepted transmission from the front told the same story, that the enemy was pressing closer to Earth and its colonies. The enemy, known only as the Makor, had fought countless battles across the stars. They were relentless creatures of metal and bone, with ships that fed on the energy of dying suns. They had destroyed entire fleets and left worlds as lifeless stones, and yet somehow they had never found this hidden ocean or the tunnels that led into it. Vera walked down the command deck, her boots ringing on the metal floor. The faces she passed showed both fear and fierce determination. She knew that once the order came, there would be no turning back. Every ship would rise from this hidden place and cut through the sea into the sky in a storm of engines and fire. She remembered the old stories of sea beasts rising from the depths to devour the unsuspecting, and thought how fitting it was that they would become those beasts for the enemy. A sudden flicker on the glowing map caught her attention, a red flare that bloomed on the edge of the galaxy's rim. One of their scout drones destroyed. Without warning, this could only mean the Makor were moving faster than expected. The time they thought they had was slipping away like water through their fingers. Jalen turned to her, his voice tight with urgency. Commander, if we wait any longer, we may lose the outer defense grid, Vera said. Nothing at first. Her gaze locked on the growing red line that crept toward the inner systems. She thought of the cities above the ocean, the people living their lives unaware that below them an entire fleet was ready to fight and die for their survival. She also thought of the cost, for if they rose too soon, they risked revealing themselves before the right moment, and the Makor could strike at their unprepared allies. Another officer approached with a data slate, his face pale. We have new orders from the Council, he said. Vera took the slate and scanned the words, her heart pounding. The order was not what she had expected. It was not an attack order. It was something far stranger. The Council commanded the Armada to prepare for immediate relocation, not to strike, but to vanish deeper into the planet, to hide again in a new location far from here. The reasoning was unclear. The message only said that the enemy might already know of their position, and that a strike now could lead to total annihilation. The command deck erupted in murmurs and disbelief. Some crew members stood in shock, others slammed their fists on the consoles in frustration. Jalen stared at Vera, waiting for her response. She looked around at the faces of her crew, at the silent warriors ready for battle, and she knew that obeying this order could mean abandoning the chance to save the surface, while defying it could mean destruction. She called for silence, and the room went still, her voice calm but edged with steel. I will not let this fleet run like prey when the enemy is at our gates. We were built for this moment. We were hidden here for this moment, and I will not let fear decide our fate. Her words rang through the ship and into the comms linking the rest of the Armada in the vast chamber. The roar of voices came back in agreement, captains and crews pledging to follow her into battle. Vera turned to Jalen. Set a course for Breach Point Delta. Prepare all ships for silent ascent, engines at minimum, until we reach the outer trench. Once there, we rise together, like the storm that has been waiting for centuries. The lights on the Dawn Spear dimmed to combat mode. The vast chamber trembled as ships powered their engines. The sound was like the heartbeat of a giant. The water above them shifted as invisible currents began to flow. The million-ship Armada was waking from its long sleep. As the first vessels moved toward the hidden trench, a strange vibration shivered through the water. Jalen frowned, sensors picking up something large approaching from beyond the rock wall. Not a ship, not a Mach-4 signal, but something massive and alive, moving in patterns that no machine could make. The crew stared at the readings in confusion. Then a deep booming sound rolled through the ocean like a drumbeat from the ancient past. The walls shook, small fragments of rock falling like rain from above outside, and the murkish shape began to form shadows, swirling in the faint glow of the ship. Lights, a long sinuous body with eyes that burned like molten gold. Vera felt her breath catch as she realized they were not alone in this trench, that something older than the fleet, older than the Mach-4, and perhaps older than the planet itself, had been sleeping here too. The golden eyes turned slowly toward the fleet, and the ocean seemed to hold still in fear. The creature's voice, when it came, was not heard with ears, but felt in the bones. Who disturbs the deep? It asked in a tone that was both curious and dangerous. Vera stepped forward, placing her hand on the comms link. "We are here to protect our world," she said, hoping the ancient being understood her meaning and did not see them as enemies. But the golden eyes blinked slowly, and the body coiled in the dark like a storm gathering strength. The Armada now faced not only the Mach-4 above, but a guardian of the depths that might not let them pass without a test. And as the first shockwave rippled through the water, they understood that this battle was about to become far more than they had planned. The sea above was no longer calm, but roaring like a giant beast trapped under the weight of the world, and beneath its violent waves the million-ship Armada stood ready, their silver hulls shining in the faint alien light that leaked through cracks in the ocean. Sealing Admiral Kale stood on the command bridge of the lead vessel, his eyes locked on the glowing symbols that now pulsed across the walls, each one beating like a heart in perfect rhythm with the ocean itself. It was as if the sea was alive, speaking to him through light and sound, telling him that the time had finally come. Commander Rin approached, her face pale under the shifting blue light, and her voice steady despite the weight of what she was about to say. "The last signal from the deep core isn't," she whispered. "The ocean gate will open in less than 3 minutes." Kale felt the air thicken, every muscle in his body tense, and every sound in the command deck fade, until only the deep hum of the ship remained. The Armada was about to rise, and the universe would never be the same. Outside, the colossal shapes of the other ships shifted in formation, each one sliding into place with perfect precision, their movements as silent as shadows in the dark. The creatures of the deep watched from a distance, their glowing eyes reflecting the rising power of the fleet. Some swam closer, drawn by the vibration that echoed through the water, but none dared approach too near, for they sensed the force within the ships was not meant for them. The first tremor came like the shaking of a mountain, a deep rumble that passed through the metal bones of the Armada and into the water above. Massive clouds of sand and silt swirled around the hulls, casting strange shapes in the blue glow. The ocean gate was opening, and the currents became wild, spiraling in great columns that pulled and twisted everything in their path. Kale could feel the pull on his own body, even though he was sealed inside layers of steel and energy shielding. A sudden burst of light erupted far above, like lightning trapped under glass. It was not sunlight, but something older, something that had been waiting for millions of years. The alien core had awakened. The gate was not just a way to the surface. It was a bridge across the stars, a wormhole of impossible scale hidden in the depths of Earth's seas. Rin's voice came again, sharp and urgent. "We have a reading on the other side, Admiral. It is not empty space. It is a massive structure." Kale's mind raced as the ships began to rise, the water around them boiling with motion. He thought of the long years of silence, of the secrets buried in the ocean trenches, of the messages hidden in the deep pressure waves. He thought of the ancient war, the one the alien whispers had spoken of, a war that had burned across galaxies and ended here at the bottom of Earth's seas. The enemy had never found the Armada because it had never been meant to fight then, but now the signs were clear. The war was coming again. One by one, the ships breached the barrier between the hidden world and the upper seas. The sudden brightness of the surface blinded the cameras for a moment, until the image cleared, showing a night sky filled with unnatural light. Strange shapes moved in orbit above the planet, some familiar, some utterly alien. The enemy was already here, waiting, and the fleet had awakened just in time. Rin stared at the readings, her voice trembling for the first time in years. "Admiral, there are thousands of them." Kale's grip tightened on the command rail, his mind cold. and sharp. "Then we give them what they never expected," he said, and his voice carried through the comm channels to every ship in the Armada. The ocean itself seemed to roar as the fleet broke free from the water, their engines igniting in unison and sending waves crashing in every direction. The million ships rose into the air like a single living being, their hulls burning with energy as the wormhole gate expanded above the waves. In its center, a swirling vortex of stars and shadows stretched into infinity, a path to somewhere else, somewhere far from Earth, and yet perhaps the true battlefield. Kale knew the choice they faced. They could rise and meet the enemy here, or take the fight beyond the gate into the heart of whatever threat had sent them fleeing to Earth so long ago. His decision was instant. "The universe will never see it coming," he said to himself as the fleet turned in perfect formation and aimed for the heart of the vortex. As the lead ship crossed the threshold, the view before them changed into a blinding sea of light. Vast structures like floating cities drifted in the void, each one guarded by fleets as large as their own alien worlds hung in the distance, their surfaces glittering with fire and shadow. The war had already begun here. Battles raged in silence, explosions blooming like deadly flowers in the dark. Kale felt the weight of history settle on his shoulders. The million-ship Armada had been hidden for eons beneath the seas of a quiet planet. But now they were awake, and the galaxy would remember their return for as long as time endured. The gate behind them pulsed and shuddered as more ships poured through until the full might of the fleet stood ready. The enemy forces turned to face them, their lines breaking, their formations twisting into chaos they had not expected. A ghost from the past to arrive with such power. The first salvo lit the void like a second sun. The war cry of the Armada carried across the comms and into the hearts of every warrior. Kale stood unblinking as the stars burned around them, for he knew that the ocean had given them life, and now the galaxy would know the force that had slept beneath its waves for far too long. The universe had never seen it coming, and now it was too late to stop it.